everyone! Alright, I know, I keep saying I'm not an aviation YouTuber, but here I am releasing yet another aviation related video. But look, this one's kind of important to me and I wanted to make sure I really kept this one for nostalgia's sake because this is a milestone flight for me. I was headed up to Minneapolis to visit my sister and have dinner with her. And as I thought about what airport to fly into, I looked at my logbooks and realized this trip was going to put me over 200 hours of total pilot time. So I wanted to make it a really big deal, and I figured what better way than to make it my first flight into a Class Bravo airport. That's right, I flew my little Cherokee into KMSP, the big Minneapolis St. Paul airport. And so this video is just a little bit of the approach and landing for you. And we're gonna join the video. I'm on with a area approach controller about to get handed off to the controller, the approach controller for my runway 12 right. So here we go, let's check it out.
Minneapolis approach, Cherokee 6355 Juliet, 4500.
Cherokee 6355 Juliet, Minneapolis approach, roger.
Alright, so some of you may have already noticed that the audio of me talking to air traffic control is not being recorded from in my aircraft. I just don't have all the hardware and things ready to go yet to be able to do that. I'm getting an avionics upgrade done later this year that will install a brand new Garmin audio panel that's going to give me the ability to actually record good audio straight off of the intercom and off the radios. So for now, I just had to go to LiveATC, pull as much as I could, and I at least got all of my exchanges with air traffic control. They're not perfect, but they're what I have at least for this video.
Cherokee 55 Juliet, turn right heading 020.
Right 020, 55 Juliet.
The approach into Minneapolis was a long one. I was coming in from the east, but they were landing traffic on 12 right and 12 left. I was told to expect runway 12 right. So as they brought me into the Bravo, they routed me around all of the southern suburbs of Minneapolis. And there's a lot of different airports in that airspace, so that was kind of interesting. I got a lot of different altitudes to maintain. They slowly descended me in, and they gave me a lot of vectors, as you're seeing here, to bring me all the way around the airport and ultimately enter into a final approach to runway 12 right. So here, as I'm flying directly over Flying Cloud Airport, I'm starting to get a really good view of Minneapolis. I can see the airport, it looks huge out there. And I can see all of the airliners coming in and making their landings as I'm still slowly coming around. It felt like this part took forever. But slowly I could see I was getting turned toward the airport. I knew I was getting close. And now I was just starting to think about, boy, how are they going to sequence me in with all of these fast jets?
Cherokee 55 Juliet, turn right heading 030, descend to maintain VFR 4000.
Right 030 and 4000, 55 Juliet.
All the way in, you've noticed that my radio calls have been reasonably solid. Felt like I was doing a pretty good job. But in the interest of not only showing our wins, but also showing our learning moments, this next call, when I actually get my clearance to begin the approach to runway 12 right, boy, I I just stumbled all over it. I wasn't thinking about who I was talking to. I had so much on my mind as I was just getting, honestly, a little more nervous about the landing coming up. And so you're going to hear me just fumble all over this next set of radio calls.
355 Juliet, your traffic to follow, 1 o'clock and 7 miles and Airbus 321 at 2,000 on the final.
Negative contact looking 55 Juliet.
355 Juliet, Minneapolis, 2 o'clock, 8 miles.
55 Juliet, got that traffic in sight.
355 Juliet, roger, follow the Airbus, caution wake turbulence, make straight in, runway 30 right, correction 12 right.
Follow the Airbus, caution wake turbulence, and clear number 2, make straight in 12 left, right, 55 Juliet.
Okay, so a rough moment on the radios, but honestly, I was really impressed by the sequencing here. The amount of separation they were able to work in, I didn't have to make any delaying turns or anything else. I was just kept sort of turning more and more towards the airport, and now they've given me the aircraft I need to follow, who's an Airbus 320 out there on final.
Cherokee 55 Juliet, contact Minneapolis Tower, 126.7.
126.7, 55 Juliet, thanks. Minneapolis Tower, Cherokee 6355 Juliet, 12 right.
November 6355 Juliet, Minneapolis Tower, caution wake turbulence, Airbus just touching down now. The wind is 140 at 8. Runway 12 right, clear to land.
2 right, cleared to land, and got that Airbus inside 55 Juliet.
All right, so there it is. I'm cleared to land behind that Airbus, all set to go, making my turn. I'm talking to Tower. If I'm gonna nitpick anything here, you'll notice when I got handed off to Tower that I had to put in the frequency they gave me because I didn't have it preloaded. That's because I ended up getting a different frequency than what I was expecting for Tower. You see, Minneapolis actually has 3 different frequencies for their tower based on what runway you're assigned to land on. And apparently when I wrote all this down into my scratch pad that I had everything all set to go and planned out, I must have gotten a couple of the frequencies backward or something. And so I made a mistake there. It wasn't a big deal. Obviously, I was able to easily put in the correct frequency, get talking to Tower, everything went fine. But that's just one of those little nitpicky things that, especially flying into a Bravo airport, you really want to be aware of. Take a look at all the different radio frequencies. Not only do they have 3 different frequencies for Tower, but then they have 3 different frequencies for approach based on which runway. And also, when you're departing, they actually have 4 different frequencies for ground. One that does ground metering, and then 3 others that you get assigned to based on where you are on the airport. So a great reminder that anytime you're gonna fly into any complex airport, in particular one you're not familiar with, read through all of those documents in the AFD and look at the diagram, because you're gonna need that stuff. All right, I'm all lined up. The runway is out there in front of me, and it is ginormous. Runway 12 right at Minneapolis is 10,000 feet long and 200 feet wide. Now, I hadn't really considered the size of the runway to be something I really needed to be worried about. Obviously, it's way more than enough room for me to land my little Cherokee. but pay attention to what happens as I come in for landing, and I learn that it's really hard to judge your height above the runway when the runway is that wide, and so much wider than any runway you're used to landing on before. So here I am, I'm coming in, and you can see all the Delta aircraft there on the left-hand side of the runway watching me. So I've got all the professional pilots who are about to watch me land this tiny little Cherokee on their big old runway.
Cherokee 55 Juliet, roll down to Whiskey 5. That'll be 6 turns from now for 55 Juliet. Correct, Whiskey 5, straight into signature with me.
Whiskey 5.
Ouch, okay, not the smoothest touchdown. I flared too early because that runway was huge and it completely messed with my judgment for how far off the runway I was. And you also notice how quickly she came with those taxi instructions. Pay attention to that if you're gonna fly into a Bravo. I wasn't even touched down yet, and she was already giving me instructions on how to taxi. Trust me, I made sure that audio is synced up. That is when those instructions came in.
Cherokee 55 Juliet, it'll be this next right turn. That'll be Whiskey 5. Right turn straight into signature via Whiskey 5 with me. Good night.
Well, clearly once I was on the ground, LiveATC wasn't able to pick up all of my audio, so a couple of my calls got cut off there at the end. I noticed that that tower controller also seemed to be kind of treating me with a little bit of kid gloves, or at least that was my impression, having me continue on down the runway almost 6,000 feet to exit at that particular taxiway that would send me straight into the FBO. My impression was she probably did that just to make it easier for me to taxi into the FBO. Now, I mean, I had gone in there, I had reviewed the entire taxi diagram, I knew where I was headed, and I knew what all the major taxiways were, but at the end of the day, this worked out just as well. I did it. I landed at a Class Bravo, and as nervous as I was, this honestly wasn't that much more difficult than flying into many of the busy Class Charlies that I go into fairly regularly. So I hope you found the video at least entertaining, and if it's inspiring you to think about possibly flying into a Class Bravo airport yourself, I would just recommend reach out to the TRACON, give them a call, find out what are the best times, and make sure that they're okay with you coming in. It worked out well for me, and I hope it works out well for you too. Take care, keep flying, we'll see you again soon.